You guys mind if I try out a new setup? As of recently, I now have a desk in my room and a chair to sit at the desk. So I decided that for the new year, I would try to do something different and move out of filming in the basement to film in my bedroom. This is still kind of an experiment though. If you guys don't really like it, I will move back to the basement, but this is just something to try out. If you guys aren't crazy about it, again, I will move back down to the basement, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Anyway, welcome to 2021 and welcome back to 10 Years Later, the series where I talk about albums from the 2010s that were either impactful to me, impactful to music in general, very popular, or just worth revisiting 10 years later for good or bad reasons. And as you can tell from the title, the album that we'll be talking about today is the 2011 ScHoolboy Q album, Setbacks. This was the debut studio album from Top Dog Entertainment rapper ScHoolboy Q, 1/4 of the Black Hippy collective with Kendrick Lamar, J-Rock, and Ab-Soul. These days, a lot of hip-hop fans know ScHoolboy Q for some of his iconic projects like Oxymoron and the Blank Face LP. But this record came at a time when Q was still technically independent, and even though this record didn't do anywhere near the numbers of those more iconic records, it did hit the Billboard 200 and help ScHoolboy Q lift his career off the ground and get his name buzzing a good bit. Now, while I don't have the most familiarity with ScHoolboy Q, I know a lot of people very much enjoy his music, and I do have some experience with him because I reacted to and reviewed his latest album, Crash Talk, back in 2019. I was interested in seeing where it all began for the TDE rapper, though I did get a bit concerned when I saw the album was 15 tracks and 62 minutes. Beefy as it seems, length isn't really my big issue with this thing. What is, though, is the general inconsistency across the board. ScHoolboy Q himself proved to be a talented rapper across the board, and the features do excellent work here, but the album does tend to lag behind because of some repetitive production, a lack of interesting lyricism, and some pretty bland and potentially non-existent hooks. Tracks like Figget the Money and Cycle are ruined by their choruses, and the latter is definitely disappointing given that it's one of the most lyrically interesting tracks here for how it centers around the cycle of gang life. I Bet I Got Some Weed is the perfect example of a track that gets a lot of these elements wrong. It's a stoner anthem that's definitely chill, but it has a bland hook and instrumental that blends in with some of the others here and a complete lack of interesting lyricism. There are also several cases on here where a certain song might get one of those three elements right but not the others, and the album feels inconsistent in terms of what it wants to do right. For example, despite being a very introspective song, I'm Good feels like one of the moments where the album reaches sonic homogeny. The beat, built on a looping soulful sample, just doesn't have enough variance, making it feel like a track that should have been more memorable than it was, especially given the solid features from BJ the Chicago Kid and Punch. Situations is Q's attempt at something of a love song, and while it has a very smooth beat, the lyrics honestly come across as kinda cheesy to me. The one thing that really lifts it is the typically angelic vocals of Jhené Aiko on the chorus, and it's sad that such an amazing hook had to be wasted on this song. And sadly, this isn't the only example of a track where a featured artist outshines Q. There are actually quite a few moments where the feature is far and away the best part of the song. Kendrick Lamar steals the show on Light Years Ahead Sky High, which has a bouncy beat but not much in the way of interesting lyricism from ScHoolboy. Also, Druggies with Hoes is lifted a lot by Ab-Soul's performance, as while Q gives it his all, his repetitive A scheme just doesn't work for me. At the very least though, there are a few tracks on here where it feels like things go right. Kamikaze showcases Q's cutthroat feel and flows well, and What's the Word is probably one of the hardest instrumentals on the album, with sneaky pianos that blend well with the strong performances from Q and J-Rock. Ab-Soul's chorus is also very entertaining too. Also, the back half of the album does jump up in quality a good bit. To the Beat F'd Up is probably one of the closest Q gets to putting together everything on a track. The beat has this dark vibe that's really creative, Q's performance is charismatic, and despite its repetitiveness, the chorus is pretty good. Same goes for tracks like Situations and Crazy, even if the latter has a few small bars that haven't aged as well. There's also the very celebratory Phenomenon that combines these elements and adds in a wonderful chorus from the late Alori Joe, who was Ab-Soul's girlfriend that sadly committed suicide in 2012. It's honestly one of the most beautiful tracks here by a long shot. Birds and the Bees feels like one of the few tracks that's able to counter that sonic homogeny, mostly because Q himself rides the bright beat nicely here, and also because he has Kendrick to drop a fire guest verse as you would expect. Kendrick once again kills this one, but Q holds his own on the track too. And the album wraps up with Rolling Stone, a posse cut featuring Q's fellow Black Hippy members Kendrick, Ab-Soul, and J-Rock. It's a light, fun track to end things off with that features a well-implemented sample of the track Time of the Season by the Zombies, and it did definitely show the potential of Black Hippy as a collective thanks to their solid chemistry. Overall though, while the second half of the album was an improvement over the first, ScHoolboy Q's debut was definitely far from being his finest hour. There wasn't much from it that was outwardly bad, and given that the album is over an hour, that's a bit of a blessing. On the other hand though, it feels like this record doesn't have the most memorable of high points. I think this was a record where it was pretty easy for me to pick out what the good and bad elements of it were. On the positive side, Q showcases his charisma and talent as an artist, and he knew how to bring out some great work in his features, even if that last part can double as a negative when the features outshine him a good deal. Unfortunately, his hooks, lyricism, and production all tend to feel very hit or miss. It seems like there are way too many moments on this record where those elements don't blend harmoniously, and only one of the three really stands out for the right reasons. It's worth cutting him a bit of slack though, because it was his debut album and he was still independent when it released, but while it had its moments, it also had its duds. It's a passable debut from someone that would go on to become a bigger voice in hip-hop, but there was definitely room for improvement here. Back in 2011, my lack of interest in hip-hop may have probably stopped me from ever seeking out this project, and listening to it now, it's passable enough, but you can tell Q was not all the way there yet artistically. If I had to put it on my scale, this album would probably get an okay rating. There's some highs, but it's a pretty inconsistent album overall. But that's just my opinion on ScHoolboy Q's debut record. What did you guys think about it? Did you listen to it back in 2010? Do you still listen to it now? Did you love it then, hate it then, love it now, hate it now? Are you just completely indifferent towards it? What's your history with ScHoolboy Q? Whatever your thoughts are, leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. And if you guys want to support my passion for content creation by subscribing to my OnlyFans, where I create exclusive music review and poetry content for $4.99 a month, the link to that is also in the description. Again, it's no big deal if you can't or don't want to. I totally understand, and I appreciate anyone who is able to. In terms of what's to come, the next 10 Years Later video that I'm going to be doing is on Adele's 21. That album technically came out in February here in America, but its original release in Europe was in January, so I will of course be covering that late in the month, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.